126 meters from just 8 carries, 6 defenders beaten, 2 tries against Argentina under 20. The kind of performance that makes people stop scrolling, rewind clips, and check the jersey number again because it doesn't look real the first time you see it. And here's the strange part. The conversation that followed wasn't about how dominant he was. It was about whether he was too small. What most people didn't notice at that moment was something far more important quietly happening behind the scenes, something that could change how South Africa develops its next generation of backs. Because while fans were debating size, coaches were already asking a different question entirely. How do we build a system around this player? When Ethan Adams carried the ball that night, defenders didn't just miss tackles, they hesitated. And hesitation in rugby is fatal. What happens next is where the story becomes interesting, because this wasn't a once-off highlight performance. Analysts reviewing the footage noticed patterns. Every carry came with intent, every collision ended with forward momentum, and every defensive line began compressing earlier than normal just to stop him. That reaction alone tells you something you might not see on the stat sheet. Adams wasn't just gaining meters, he was reshaping defensive structure. And here's something many viewers don't realize yet. Coaches value players who force defenses to panic more than players who simply score tries. Now, pause for a second and think about this. 8 carries for 126 meters means defenders had multiple opportunities to adjust. They didn't. Why? Because Adams accelerates unusually fast for a 104-kilogram player. By the time defenders set their feet, he's already past the gain line. But what happens when opponents start planning specifically for him? That's the real test coming next. Argentina couldn't solve him. The upcoming championship sides will study every angle, every carry, every running line. And this is where young careers either stall or explode into something much bigger. There's another layer many fans haven't considered. Inside South African rugby structures, performances like this immediately trigger long-term conversations. Talent identification staff begin projecting roles 2 or 3 years ahead. Some already believe Adams may not remain a traditional center at all. Imagine a player with forward-level power entering backline channels against tired defenders late in games. Sound familiar? That thinking is exactly how the Springboks created tactical innovations that the rest of the world later copied. What you're watching might not just be a rising player, it could be the early stage of another strategic evolution. And then comes the height debate. At 1.75 meters, Adams is shorter than most international centers. On paper, that looks like a limitation, but here's what many viewers don't know yet. Modern defensive systems are built primarily to stop tall, upright carriers. A lower runner changes tackle geometry completely. Defenders aiming for a chop tackle suddenly find the target already low. Go high, and they collide with 104 kilograms driving forward at sprint speed. That's why several tackles against Argentina looked awkward. Defenders weren't failing through lack of effort. They were dealing with unfamiliar physics. What happens next as opponents adapt will reveal whether Adams' advantage becomes permanent or temporary. And here's a detail that hasn't been widely discussed yet. Adams reportedly clocked a 10.8-second 100 meters at his size. That number alone changes how coaches think about positioning. Speed combined with mass is rare. Power-to-weight ratio like that creates options most teams don't even prepare for. This raises a fascinating possibility. Instead of asking whether he fits the existing Springbok center mold, selectors may eventually ask whether the mold itself needs updating. That's exactly the type of decision Rassie Erasmus has become famous for making. But development is never linear. Many under-20 stars dominate junior rugby and then disappear when senior rugby demands faster decisions and stronger bodies. The step-up is brutal. Defensive reads happen quicker, space disappears faster, and players who relied only on physical gifts often struggle. What people outside the system don't see yet is that coaches are watching Adams' decision-making just as closely as his carries. Can he distribute under pressure? Can he defend multiple phases? Can he manage tempo when momentum swings? These unseen elements will decide whether this story becomes hype or history. Something else worth watching is how teammates respond to him. Great players don't just perform individually, they elevate structures around them. During that Argentina match, support runners began tracking closer lines because they expected offloads. Defenders folded inward, opening wide space elsewhere. Those subtle reactions suggest Adams might become more than a ball carrier. He could become a gravitational player, someone who bends the field simply by existing on it. And if that development continues, South Africa won't just gain another center, they gain a tactical weapon. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Some insiders are already discussing a hybrid role similar to how Rassie Erasmus used unexpected players in past World Cup cycles. A back who can operate like a forward, a collision specialist who still has backline speed. Imagine him entering matches against fatigued defenses, similar to how the bomb squad changed games in the second half. That possibility isn't confirmed yet, but it's exactly the type of experiment South African rugby thrives on. The question isn't whether Adams replaces someone, it's whether he introduces something defenses haven't prepared for. And this brings us to a moment many viewers might not realize they're watching. Rugby cycles change quietly before they change dramatically. First comes a standout junior performance, then curiosity, then debate, then suddenly a player becomes inevitable. Right now, Adams sits somewhere between curiosity and inevitability. The next few tournaments will determine which direction this story turns. Will defenses solve him? Will his skill set expand? Will provincial rugby expose weaknesses or reveal an even higher ceiling? So think about what happens next. When the championship begins in July, every carry will be analyzed differently. Opponents will target him earlier, coaches will test him defensively, pressure will increase. And that moment, when expectations arrive, is where future internationals separate themselves from promising prospects. Some players shrink when the spotlight grows, others accelerate under it. We don't know yet which path Adams will take, and that uncertainty is exactly what makes this journey compelling to follow. Because the real question was never about size, it's about impact. Modern South African rugby has repeatedly succeeded by embracing players who didn't fit conventional expectations. If Adams continues progressing, Rassie Erasmus won't ask whether he matches the traditional template. He'll ask how dangerous the team can become once that template changes again. And maybe the most exciting part of this story is that we are still watching the beginning. So now I want to hear from you. What happens next in Ethan Adams' career? Does he become a long-term Springbok center, evolve into a hybrid role, or develop into something South African rugby hasn't quite seen before? And be honest, is the height debate still relevant, or are we watching another moment where rugby's old assumptions are about to be rewritten?